This is the Eachine VR D3, which is an FPV headset with a 3-inch 960 by 480 display with a 4:3 aspect ratio. The instructions are pretty good, and make sure you hold on to them because the buttons are not labeled. You get 2 sets of face foam. One is a little thicker than the other. A patch antenna. You get a 3-point head strap. And a circular polarized antenna. The antennas are RPSMA. So the quality is just average. It's not a high-end headset. It's got diversity receivers and a DVR. Micro SD slot is on top here. It has a 1000 milliamp hour internal 1S battery, which can be charged with USB here. Got the buttons on the side, and there's no AV input. So let's see what we've got in here. Usually with this kind of headset, it's a very simple configuration with a lens and a display with the main driver board behind the display. And this is no different. This one has 2 receivers, which is kind of nice. Most sets like this only have a single receiver. It has a DVR unit, but it's a fairly simple DVR. It just has the micro SD slot and 1 button. Sometimes there'll be multiple buttons so you can fast forward and rewind, but this doesn't do that. And to get the main board out, you need to take the nuts off the antennas. My prop remover worked perfect for that. And when I pulled it out, I was able to figure out the model number of the display, and it turns out it's not what they say. They say it's a 900 by 600 display, but you can see here it's actually a 960 by 480 display. So Eachine kind of fudged the numbers there. So here's a good look at the display. It's got a backlight setting, which is separate from brightness. I'm not sure why they have 2 different settings there, but it seems the backlight brightens up the display without whitening it. It has contrast and saturation, but seems like the saturation doesn't do too much, and this display lacks saturation overall. In fact, when there is a color, you can see the color kind of has a flashing strobe effect to it, which kind of bothers me, especially in a well-lit room. So when I put this back together, I left the lens out. It has a tab to keep you from pulling it out normally. And it turns out you can slide it in from the outside and get at least another centimeter or so of focal distance. You just don't want to pull it out too much, it'll fall out. But for me, this works great. It doesn't strain my eyes at all if I have it out here. But if I keep it inside the enclosure, it does strain my eyes even at the max position. So if eye strain is a problem for you with these kind of sets, then maybe this is a good choice. So I want to compare these to the FB009, which is one of the cheapest goggles you can get. It runs for only about $40. It has a much lower resolution display and a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, but when you look at them, you can see that the VR D3 really lacks color. The budget headset here has much more vibrant colors despite the low resolution display. The VR D3 is also a bit more weighty and a little bit more bulky. Now let's compare it to the gold standard, the EV800D, which has a 5-inch 800 by 600 display, 16 by 9. It's a bit larger, but the display is much nicer, and despite the fact that the VR D3 has a supposedly higher resolution display, I still feel like the EV800D seems to have a higher pixel density. Now when you look at these side by side, it looks like the VR D3 has such a small screen, but I think that kind of works to its advantage because the EV800D has such a big screen and it's so close to your eyes that it's very easy to get a headache. So I'm running a channel scan here just to give you an idea of how long it takes. I think it's maybe about 20-30 seconds. Anyway, my overall thoughts of this headset is that it's pretty decent, but it's missing a few features. It doesn't have AV in, it doesn't have fast forward or reverse on the DVR, and the build quality is just average. Now the biggest problem I have with this is with the screen. It just doesn't like warm colors. You can see how the red is flashing over here and on my sleeve. And if you're in a room with a warm light bulb, the whole room is flashing. And what's strange is it doesn't show up in the DVR footage. It's only when the footage is coming directly from the receiver. This doesn't seem to affect all cameras, but it's definitely worth pointing out. Finally, I just want to point out that it's not very comfortable. It lacks cheek support, so it tends to fall down on top of your nose, and I have no real solution for that except to rest it on the tip of my nose. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe.